I'm going on a date tonight. I'm going on a date. I'm getting picked up for a date in a few minutes. Tomorrow, I'm gonna go on a date with this French waiter that I met. I went on a date. I'm going on a date, so let's have a drink. I just finished my date. I'm walking home now. I had 3 dates. I'm going on a date. Big news. I'm going on a date this weekend. I just had a date. I have a date and I have to leave in a few minutes. I downloaded Bumble for the first time in years. I downloaded it 2 days ago and I have now 1,300 likes on there. I don't get rejected. It upsets some men when I say I don't get rejected. I just want a f***ing gentleman. I want a gentleman, but I don't even know what that means. What the f*** is a gentleman? After that video, I've gotten 200 plus guys asking me out in my DMs. So
I found her, you guys. I found Molly Rutter's distant Canadian cousin. Actually, one of her viral videos found me and I went down a rabbit hole, and now I'm going to drag you down with me. You are so very welcome, brethren. So get your earbuds on. Good earbuds are hard to come by, kind of like love, as we're about to find out. So during this season of love, I've personally discovered true love's perfect pair, Raycon's everyday earbuds. Now, Raycon's earbuds have been my loyal companions since last year. I'm a self-admitted gym bro, and Raycon's latest model is better than ever, especially for my active lifestyle. With active noise cancellation and 32 hours of battery life, you are getting premium earbuds that start at half the price of other premium audio brands. They're also sweat resistant and have a quick charge function. A mere and quick 10-minute charge gives me 90 minutes of battery life. And that is great at making my workouts as well as my long walks home stress-free and fully focused. And there are so many vibrant colored earbuds to choose from. I personally love how the black earbuds look in my ears. I wear them everywhere because my social anxiety cannot not have music on. But I've been trying to be a little more expressive lately, and you can get one of Raycon's gorgeous protective case covers, which has been a godsend. I drop my earbuds all the time, and the dreaded anticipation of a shattered case is no more. Not only does it protect your earbuds and case, it also just, as you can see, looks and feels amazing. You can really feel the high quality. They support wireless charging, so you don't even have to take off the protective case. So why not get your new favorite earbuds and listen to me talk for hours about TikTokers and influencers you didn't ask me to. Again, you are so very welcome. Go to buyraycon.com/Kidology to get up to 20% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 20% off everything on Raycon's website. Absolutely everything, including 20% off all headphones too, when you go to buyraycon.com/Kidology. Thank you so very much to Raycon for sponsoring this video, and a special thanks to you for supporting me and the channel in this way. I really do appreciate it. Now, if you don't know who Molly Rutter is, she's basically going viral as a controversial TikTok dating creator. But what I'd personally call her, and other dating creators like her, are serial daters.
All right, let's go to this date, shall we? I'm going on a date and here's my fit. I'm going on a date. I had plans for a date tonight and he canceled. My first date in a month.
Now, serial daters have been well and truly invigorated in our world of dating apps and the ease of dating that these apps give. Basically, serial daters are people who, whether they want to admit it or not, love the thrill of dating, the dopamine rush they get from meeting new people, and those initial romantic sparks, as well as everything that goes into the process of dating, the picking of a date, the getting ready for a date, the anticipation and excitement for the date, and especially the potential that the date may offer. Maybe he or she will be the one.
Okay guys, welcome to Joshua's 2024 Grinder Wrapped. This year I got with 84 random people, which might seem like a lot, but we're down 163% from last year, which is what we call growth.
This year I went on a total of, drumroll please, 48 first dates.
Welcome to Tara's Dating Wrapped 2024. We are back, another year of dating, and this year I went on around 120 dates.
Subconsciously, what serial daters are rarely after is the exhilaration of the chase, the excitement of the beginning stages, the constant validation they get from knowing that a succession of eligibles is willing to date them. They will never date anybody for a long time, and you can usually tell that you're dating a serial dater when they go on loads of first dates that never translate into anything long term. They'll usually go on a first date with you, and then they won't want to follow up on a second date, or they'll just ghost you.
I saw a comment once and they were like, wow, you go on so many first dates, but why do they never turn into relationships? Interesting. And like, I find that so funny. Do these people think like that me going on first dates and it not turning into a relationship means that the man chose not to date me? Like, generally, no.
What I've definitely noticed is that a lot of serial daters have an origin story that revolves around a significant ex that they haven't quite gotten over. They haven't properly or healthily healed from the breakup. And this is largely because the serial dater is the one who was broken up with. This breakup is what instills the serial dater's fear of rejection and makes them perfect candidates for the serial dating lifestyle and for dating apps. I speak from personal experience. The serial dater's rationale is that basically there's no rejection when you're only going on a successive number of first, at most second or third, or sometimes even fourth dates before moving on to the next one, before there's an opportunity for the date to reject them. Another thing you'll notice with serial daters is that even though they don't like dating apps, even though they're aware of how dissatisfying serial dating is, they can't seem to leave the apps. Serial daters claim to want a long-term relationship with someone, but they contradict themselves in looking for that commitment, in looking for those kinds of values on dating apps. And this is because serial daters are convinced that having a wider pool of people will inevitably mean that the ideal one can be found. Serial daters are obsessed with the ideal mate. And because dating apps make it seem like there's always going to be someone better out there, the serial dater is in a self-fulfilling and, in my opinion, self-destructive relationship with the dating apps. Based on my excruciating first-person analysis of dating apps revenue is entirely dependent on three groups of people. The first group of people are men. Secondly, people who are looking for hookups. And thirdly, and I would say most importantly, especially nowadays, are serial daters. You've probably seen all these recent articles of people leaving dating apps. Dating apps are in crisis and all of that. And this is largely because young people aren't hooking up anymore, and men are also getting frustrated with the lack of women on dating apps. There are significantly more men on dating apps than women. Serial daters are, in all seriousness, dating apps' last and final hope at this point. The main reason? Although serial daters date tens of hundreds of potential candidates, they are very, very picky. Remember, they're obsessed with finding the ideal partner. So they are perpetually on the apps. Just note that the logic of a serial dater is always very contradictory, but it is, in my opinion, always very fascinating. And this is basically what Molly Rutter is essentially known for. Now, TikTok has a number of these dating creators / serial daters, especially because TikTok adds another layer to serial dating. Because these dating creators become known for and gain online notoriety for their dating content, they are A, incentivized to keep serially dating, and B, they get an additional source of validation, an additional rush of excitement, additional dopamine hits from the social media attention on their dating life. It's like giving an addict their fix with an applauding crowd in the background. And this brings us to esteeisonline, a 27-year-old Canadian TikToker and dating creator. So who is Estee? In terms of her social media, she started off making fit check videos, makeup videos, and content about having bigger breasts. She's very well and highly educated. She went to university in Toronto and also has a master's degree from Johns Hopkins University. Her TikTok presence pretty much starts with her living in Amsterdam with her then boyfriend. Estee also makes a kind of content that you don't see that much on TikTok because it's a Chinese app and is populated by tweens, but she posts what you'd call soft thirst traps and has been doing so since the beginning of her TikTok journey. And I only say this not because I have any personal problems with thirst trapping, but it is important to know for context and what I'm going to be talking about a bit later. Another important biographical detail for later is that she clearly comes from a pretty well-off and a very loving family. The forums have described Estee as every young, well-off Montrealer. She recently moved from Toronto to Montreal, and at least according to her TikToks, her mother basically got her this apartment, which is insane. She's 27 in this economy and lives in this luxury apartment. This woman is doing very well for herself. Very, very well for herself, clearly. And hats off to her. And I think that when people are doing very well for themselves, they do tend to be very confident in themselves because obviously something is working. Estee's mother is, as far as I can gather, a criminal lawyer, but is also a pretty well-established artist and businesswoman based in Toronto. Her mother, her stepfather, and sister feature quite a bit in her content, and she also seems to have a very good relationship with her father, and it's evident that Estee is cherished.
I know what I have to offer. I have a mom who has instilled in me that I have a lot to offer to a partner. A lot.
I don't know if this is like a special gift that I have, but I can always tell when somebody has been raised in a very loving and validating and affirmative household growing up, because they pretty much always grow up to be very confident adults. Even if they weren't very confident as children, they're always the ones who are basically friends with their parents and their siblings when they're adults, which is so foreign to me. It's fascinating to see as an outsider, but it does really speak to Estee's very high levels of confidence that can come off as quite delusional when it comes to some of her takes on dating and men especially. Like I said, the sort of villainous origin story of many serial daters starts with them being broken up with. And this was the case with Molly Rutter and her ex-Turkish boyfriend.
I know him and I ended for a good reason, but it's just, I think about when the relationship was good.
And Estee's origin story is, it's as if they're related. Seriously. It's like Molly and Estee are living parallel lives. Just like Molly moved to be with her ex, Estee, as far as I can tell, moved to Amsterdam to live with her ex. Just like Molly still has videos and content featuring her ex on her TikTok, Estee is just as brilliantly audacious. She's also made it clear that she's not returning any of her ex's sweaters that she claimed as her own during their relationship. And there is a theme of her keeping stuff that men lend or give her, such as books. And for me, personally, I do find this quite interesting. After the end of a relationship, I'm personally not holding on to anything. I'm not holding on to photos, clothes, gifts, nothing that reminds me of you or keeps me stuck in any kinds of memories that could potentially prevent me from healthily moving on. And like with Molly, I think Estee serially dates because subconsciously they see dating as the way to reassure themselves that they are not rejected, because being broken up with by the love of their life has clearly had a big impact on their self-worth. Why did this person who's the love of my life reject me? Now I need to prove to myself and maybe even to them that I'm clearly desirable and they made a mistake letting me go. Now come April 2024 and Estee and her BF are no more. BF and I broke up. My mom is reminding me that I'm special and that when something like me comes along, you only get one chance. As I said, very much cherished, very much loved, and very much affirmed by her family and loved ones. But it's okay. She got over it in 3 weeks.
No one has made this dramatic of a change yet. No.
It's been about 3 weeks now. I literally don't care anymore. I've got some Malona. Tomorrow's May. I don't have time to be depressed when it's nice out.
And this is really where our serial dating story begins.
I'm going on another first date in like 3 minutes.
It definitely feels like Estee goes on a date every few days, and this may just be the illusion of TikTok, but this is because she doesn't like being single at all.
I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be in a relationship, but so much messaging out there today seems like it's telling you otherwise. I am someone who wants to be in a relationship. I know that I'm someone who does better in a relationship. And I've known that for a while, but there was maybe a part of me that was afraid to admit it.
It feels like dating has begun to dictate and influence major life decisions, especially in pursuit of finding this ideal man. For instance, after her breakup and going back to Toronto, she decided to move from Toronto to Montreal, not just because of the vibes, but also because the men in Montreal are her type, even though it means leaving her family in Toronto.
Also, like, as a single person, there are so many attractive men here. Like, it's crazy, and they're all my type. Maybe I'll move here. Except I really like living close to my family. I don't know. What should I do?
I just think that this is very serial data coded. Moving somewhere for your type is, let's just say it's a choice, especially when you willingly acknowledge that your type never works out.
My type in men is emotionally unavailable artists. My type in men is emotionally unavailable artists. What do we do about this? What do we do about this?
And this is an opportune time to talk more about Estee's type and the discourse that I see quite a lot on TikTok around women having an ideal man. One characteristic of a serial dater is that even though they're constantly on the grind for a relationship and their ideal partner, they don't actually know what they want in a relationship. And Estee is no exception. Although she's dating and in no rush, she's very clear that she's looking for and wants to find her future husband, and that she won't date anybody unless they bring something valuable to the table.
I think this is the first time in my life that I've been single and very much only wanting to like seriously date someone if they bring something amazing to my life.
So with all of this considered, Estee is very preoccupied with her ideal man.
I'm honestly a simple woman. I'm just looking for a 6-ish foot, dark-haired, good-haired, mustache or bearded man, maybe with tattoos, who's funny, my kind of funny, creative, thoughtful, emotionally available, ambitious, makes money, wants kids, likes cats, and is my biggest fan.
Okay, this may be a hot take, but it is my take. I don't think anyone is ever initially an ideal. I think an ideal partner is made and is very circumstantial. You know, if my ideal partner is a rich guy with tattoos, a mustache, and a creative side, but we have children, I don't know about you, but for me, a man who's always at work becoming rich with a mustache, who's 6 foot and has an emotionally unavailable, artsy, creative side isn't going to be the ideal that I need in raising a child and alleviating all the stresses that come with that cycle of life. You know, I'm not going to be thinking, damn, at least he's hot and still has that mustache, when he can't even change a diaper. This really speaks to how dating apps have completely distorted our ability to prioritize character over looks. I don't think enough of this discourse into preferences or into ideals or into like what I like and what I don't like in a particular partner pays nearly enough attention to how our preferences and our ideals aren't stagnant, or to how our ideals are impacted by our life stages. I do feel that with most successful relationships, being one another's ideal partner is always evolving with circumstance, as well as the very specific, intricate details of your relationship together. Most of the initial stages are about building each other up, reaching compatibility, and essentially becoming ideals through the effort and practice of deeper, honest, and open communication, through a greater intimacy and awareness of one another. And so I find Estee's ideal man not only quite superficial, but also in no way aligned to what she claims to be seeking: a long-term or lifelong partner, a husband, a father to her children. And this may be another hot take, but if you're looking for a life partner and over 10% of your ideal man's criteria are about his looks, something isn't aligning. I feel like at this point, your only hope is to build a man, okay? Something that I've noticed about Estee, which is characteristic of serial daters, is that, as I said, they're looking for the one, the ideal one, but they are overly fixated on looks and physical attributes. She'll always make exceptions, not just for men, but exceptions to her values if the man is really good looking. She doesn't like gym bros.
The first thing that will absolutely make me swipe left: if you in anywhere emphasize the gym or like being very active in your profile as like a part of your lifestyle. Okay, so gym bros, no.
But then she'll make an exception for a gym bro influencer because he's hot.
I am no simp, but my friend Emma keeps sending me videos of this TikToker from Toronto, and he is so hot. And I don't even at first I didn't even think he was hot, but then I watched some of his videos and his energy is really hot. And honestly, I saw some of his workout videos and he's really hot. And I'm not the type of girl to comment on someone's videos or really DM. I've DM'd 2 guys, but I'm like, he's hot as f. I don't know. He's a little bit of a fitness boy, which I normally don't like, but he's big, and I like big dudes. That's all.
She doesn't date guys who live far away, but she'll make an exception for a guy who's hot, has a mustache, and is her type, even though he lives 2.5 hours away from her. And so clearly nothing's gonna come from it.
I'm talking to a new guy that I met on Hinge, and he doesn't even live in the city. I don't know how he got recommended to me, but he's 2.5 hours away. But he was like, I'm down to keep talking if you are. And normally I'd be like, no, but he's really handsome. And so far he's fun to talk to, so I was like, okay, it's going well so far. It's only been 2 days, but we're texting a lot. So he is handsome, he has a mustache, he's tall. Him having a mustache is probably the most predictable thing I could have said for myself, but it's a good mustache.
She also doesn't like guys who have no friends in their dating profile photos, but she'll make an exception if they're really, really hot.
No friends. If you have no friends in your photos, you better have a good profile. The rest better be... You better be really good looking.
I'm sure you're picking up on a theme here. I just find there to be something very self-sabotaging when a large chunk of the foundation of a long-term relationship is being driven by such tangible, temporary, and ever-changing criteria like physical attributes. And because evolutionarily and just societally, men value physical attractiveness more than women, I especially see men self-sabotaging in this way. They settle, and I specifically mean settle, for women who they find physically attractive, and a woman's looks are the main reason they're with her. And then they wonder why they're miserable. They wonder why they don't find emotional and psychological fulfillment in their long-term relationship. They wonder why, as they and their partner age and their attractiveness changes, why they don't have a meaningful foundation to continue a meaningful relationship on. Literally 99% of Hollywood relationships, 99% of billionaires that we at least are graced with in our world today, and 99% of Estee's dating life.
Because I'm a 27-year-old woman who's horny and wants a boyfriend.
Her type are emotionally unavailable artists, which is the complete opposite of what she idealizes and the complete opposite of the long-term relationship she claims to want. And so there's a contradiction which is very on point with our next serial dater intricacy. Estee's belief that she's never, ever been rejected. Because Estee has never been rejected, according to Estee.
I told my therapist that I think I have an addiction to attention, and not only did he agree, he said, that was very insightful.
Oh my gosh, I love this woman so much, I can't. Estee doesn't take rejection well. The end. Serial daters are characteristically known to be petrified, absolutely petrified of rejection. They must be the person to reject you before you could even have a chance to leave them. And this was high key why I was an aspiring serial dater. Estee definitely shows this tendency, and I do hazard that because she's so loved and very protected, very cherished, and so affirmed by her family and loved ones, rejection doesn't feature as something remotely sort of possible for her. She, for instance, had a crush on guy. Guy was her local dispenser, and it was at least a big enough crush to make a viral TikTok about.
I'm single now, which means I can flirt with whoever I want. I'm going to the dispensary because I have a huge crush on the guy who sells me. And he knows me now, we chat, but I always look like a mess when I go there because I'm buying, and last time I was there, I was like, oh, I look like shit. I always look like shit. when you see me, but I swear sometimes, you know, I get dressed up and look nice. He's so sweet. He was like, you always look beautiful when I see you. And I was like...
However, a few days later, she decided to quit smoking, which therefore meant that she had no reason to go back to the dispensary and see him again, which is interesting logic.
Okay, update about man. As much as I love him and he'll always have a special place in my heart, I have quit smoking, so I have zero reason to go to the dispensary anymore. So that is over.
People didn't understand why she didn't just go and ask him out if the reason for her not pursuing this crush was solely to do with her no longer having a reason to go to the dispensary. Because it wasn't that she'd actually quit smoking per se, she just doesn't smoke alone anymore.
So I need advice. In April, I quit smoking, but not entirely. I decided I was going to do it rarely and in social situations. So I used to be like perma-stoned, and I went from perma-stoned to like really not doing it at all.
To me, it very much felt like a situation reminiscent of a fear of rejection. I'm going to reject you before you potentially reject me. And whether Estee wants to admit it or not, and she very much doesn't, she is so afraid of rejection that she has convinced herself into believing wholeheartedly that she has never been rejected by a man. And she lets us know.
It upsets some men when I say I don't get rejected. And you know, that is okay. You are allowed to feel your feelings. Your feelings are valid. All of that stuff, okay? But this does not change the fact that you saying to me, I would reject you, this does not constitute a rejection. Okay? Have a good night.
And I just want to preface this by saying I'm not one of those people who's like, girl needs to be humbled or anything like that. I think this is an interesting conversation into something that I see quite a bit with these dating creators and these, as I would call them, serial daters. That is, they're so scared of rejection that they just cannot fathom that it even happens to them because they're always going on all these dates. So Estee will say this.
Somebody commented recently on a video of me in a bikini being like, I'd never let my girl post that. You're never gonna get a boyfriend making posts like that. And I'm just sitting here like, one, is he like having a whole storyline about me in his head of me like fantasizing about me getting rejected by dudes? Because it's a fun story, but it doesn't happen. I don't get rejected, unfortunately for you guys. And I think a lot of guys have that perspective, or they hope that that's the case. But unfortunately, as much as you can dream and wish that I am out here getting rejected left, right, and center, it's not happening. The reason I don't have a boyfriend right now is because I have standards. And that's the tea.
But then it won't hit that there's a bit of contradictory logic in then posting a TikTok about being unmatched and blocked by a guy.
I'm done giving guys that I meet on Hinge my Instagram. They all ask for it for some reason. But this one guy, we exchanged some messages and he asked for my Instagram. I was like, sure, whatever. He was asking when I was free and I said Saturday. So I'm like, okay, maybe we'll hang out on Saturday. We didn't make any concrete plans or anything. It's not even Saturday yet. But he's looking at all my Instagram stories. I don't really know this person, so I don't love the idea of someone I don't know, but I might go out with, like, looking at my stuff. Either way, our conversation was totally normal, like bland even, just because I don't, you know, we were gonna go out tomorrow. I go on Hinge today and he unmatched me. So yeah, he unmatched me and I was like, what? So I go to my Instagram because he was looking at all my shit, following me, everything, whatever. And of course he unfollowed me. So I'm like, okay. And then I'm curious, right? So I go to look in my following and he's not there. He removed himself from my following list. Okay, this is really pretty and that was so easy to put on. But then I'm even more curious, right? I go to look at my stories that I know he had watched. He's not there anymore. He blocked me. He blocked me. I don't know why. And I don't think it's because like I post pictures of my butt, okay? This man's a photographer. I looked at his Instagram. The majority of it was like naked women. He said he was super down to do like a photo shoot. It was so normal. Our conversation was so normal. I have absolutely no idea what I did to get this man to block me.
Now, this TikTok went viral, and I think I can answer why. In my opinion, Mr. Blocker unmatched and blocked Estee. If you go to Estee's Instagram, the first thing you see is a link to her link tree. From there, you have immediate free access to all of her social medias, including to her TikTok. And when you click on Estee's TikTok, you have immediate, unfettered access to a full library of a woman going on TikToks upon TikToks upon TikToks of first dates that never transpire into anything except a TikTok. She also met Mr. Blocker on Hinge, and Hinge is more focused on people who want serious relationships. So I'd hypothesize that Mr. Blocker probably did what I did and watched all of Estee's TikToks and realized that he most likely would end up as a mere footnote on a serial dater's TikTok page. Oh, and days later, she was still upset about it.
He blocked me. You think it's normal human behavior to block someone that you want to unmatch on a dating app? I don't know what to tell you. I diagnose you with mental illness.
To diagnose a stranger with mental illness because they softcore rejected you is very, very serial data coded. As a social media person, I definitely get the frustration around potential partners and dates judging you based on your online presence, but that's why I never give them my social medias. I have learned from experience. It is, however, very apparent that when Estee gets rejected, it isn't processed as rejection, and there's either intense denial or an immediate desire to seek validation from the internet. When she clearly gets rejected, mind you, rejection is a part of life. There is absolutely nothing to be ashamed of or embarrassed by when you get rejected. It is just life. It's fine, really. Estee will immediately resort to demeaning the guy's looks.
A guy that I was talking to on Hinge, he asked to follow me on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, sure. I'm not going to be in Montreal for a while. Maybe we'll meet up there. Sure. We're chatting like a little bit, but not very much. But to me, yeah, I'm like, maybe we'll meet up in Montreal. Whatever. Anyway, I look today. He unfollowed me. And you know what? The absolute gall, because honestly, one, he wasn't very good looking, okay? To me, he's fine looking, but not really my type. But to unfollow me, not mute me, not remove me, but unfollow. It's really just like he needed that follow, didn't he? Couldn't stand the loss of that brand new follow. And you know, it's just common courtesy. Because really. And another thought, I'm moving to your city. We could end up meeting or running in a similar circle. And what if we're friendly? Are you gonna follow me again? That's gonna be a little bit awkward, isn't it? So use your brain, not your dick.
Mind you, this Hinge guy asked to follow her on Instagram. She said that she might, maybe, at some point, I don't know, be in Montreal. She was living in Toronto at the time.
I'm not gonna be in Montreal for a while. Maybe we'll meet up there, sure. We're chatting like a little bit, but not very much. But to me, yeah, I'm like, maybe we'll meet up in Montreal, whatever.
So it wasn't like she had any concrete or foreseeable plans to see him, to actually meet Mr. Hinge. I therefore understand Mr. Hinge unfollowing her if in that time he's meeting other people, he's hit it off with someone, he's gotten into a relationship, something like that. In short, why would Mr. Hinge follow someone he's probably realized he's never going to meet when he's on Hinge looking for someone to meet? And the fact that her response to this random guy simply unfollowing her, who, remember, she admits she wasn't even interested in because he wasn't her type, is to publicly berate his looks because the gall speaks volumes vis-a-vis not being able to take rejection.
One, he wasn't very good looking, okay? To me, he's fine looking, but not really my type.
This is yet another clear case of a softcore, rather insignificant rejection. And yet it warrants a whole TikTok about his audacity to unfollow her. And what I find so interesting about TikTok, and I think it's just because it's a very different demographic and a younger demographic of primarily women and young girls and tween girls, is that everybody is yas queening her, okay? And it's fascinating because when you go onto her YouTube channel, the tone is completely different. We are mean here, guys. We are horrible. So negative on YouTube. I kind of love it. It does frighten me a bit, but I do kind of love it. It is like two worlds apart. It's fascinating. The war and animosity between TikTok and YouTube is, I hope, an everlasting war. Now, one of Estee's most viewed videos is about Patrick. And I think that this, again, is a good example of the complicated, unhealthy relationship Estee has to rejection. Now, in school, a boy called Patrick asked her why her arms were so hairy. And this was her TikTok. As an adult on that situation that happened, and I emphasize, in school.
So in middle school, a boy named Patrick asked me why my arms were so hairy, and at the time it made me a little insecure. But see, as an adult, I realized I'm gonna have this hair forever. And I just saw a photo of Patrick, and he cannot say the same.
Now, this was the first time that I really saw people not yas queening Estee on a TikTok that went viral. People were quick to point out that, firstly, Patrick was a kid. He probably had no social graces or was just curious. Asking somebody why their arms are hairy was kind of like how people would ask me why my hair was so nappy or natty, or I don't really know the word, but people would ask me lots of questions about my hair. And although it is quite easy, I think, to see it as negativity or see it as soft bullying, maybe, I do think it just came from a place of curiosity and just the way that kids will ask questions. The number of kids that I've seen in public pointing at somebody who is overweight and being like, why is he so fat? No social graces, okay? And also, people were quick to note that, secondly, insulting Patrick's loss of hair as an adult for something he probably doesn't even remember saying in middle school was, let's just say, it's very in line with someone who's rejection phobic. I do notice that people who fear rejection dwell, they're dwellers. They remember all the wrongs done to them. They remember every little thing that you ever said to them that you cannot even remember, that you do not even care about. Estee will say how abnormal it is for people to comment negatively on her softcore thirst traps.
Fun thing about posting on the internet is people just like say shit about your body because they can. And I don't know, like, I can't imagine being a real human being and just like commenting on someone else's body. I just can't. It's like a crazy concept to me. But there's real human beings out there doing that in my comments every day. Weird as fuck.
But then she'll say shit about Patrick's body because she can.
I can't imagine being a real human being and just like commenting on someone else's body. I just can't. It's like a crazy concept to me.
I can't imagine being a real human being and insulting Patrick's body. Make it make sense. Now, Estee's logic in claiming that she's never been rejected is that even if a man rejects her, it's only temporary because they always come back.
Men always come back, okay? But they come back when you don't give a shit anymore. Honestly, almost every man that I have ever like dated or who's done me wrong has come back. So, you know, don't worry, they come back, but you're just gonna have more self-esteem by the time they do.
She also clearly won't shoot her shot or go for a man if she can see potential rejection, kind of like with guy.
So I went to a musical last night and there was a very cute guy in it, and I found his Instagram like 5 minutes after the show, and I was like, I'm gonna follow him. And then it's the next day and I haven't followed him. But here's the question for you. Should I follow him and send him a DM and be like, hey, saw your musical last night, really liked the performance, thought it was great? Should I follow him and say nothing, which is creepy and weird and random? Or should I simply do nothing and pretend like I had the courage and confidence to do something? The worst thing that my sister said can happen is he can just say nothing. I've just embarrassed myself, but that's okay. I don't know.
Even that embarrassing. Like, getting good at being rejected is a really valuable skill.
Literally just posted a TikTok yesterday saying I don't get rejected. So I don't.
Or when she's rejected, she will then post about how it doesn't matter because sharing her story of rejection actually resulted in something like 200 plus guys DMing her.
After that video, I've gotten like 200 plus guys asking me out in my DMs. So
And you know what? I do love the confidence. However, I do feel that when it comes to Estee and other online serial daters / influencers in general, there can be a line that's crossed between being confidently grounded in reality and being confidently in denial. It's a fine line, but it is a line. It's like the difference between saying, I'm beautiful, and saying, I'm the most beautiful person on earth. The former is a confidence that is based in reality. It's a confidence that is grounded, that is sound, that's important to self-esteem. The latter, on the other hand, is it's delusional because it's completely unmeasurable and unsubstantiated. And it is pretty harmful because of that. You don't get to process the delusion because then you realize it's just that and your world crumbles. You know, like when we find out that Santa isn't real. Now, this whole rejection arc and all its controversies leads us perfectly into Estee's biggest controversy, the 50-50 date debacle. So in December, Estee went big time viral on TikTok after posting this video.
I went on a date and it's like, it was good. And then yet, like, I'm just tired of, like, I don't know. The bill came. The bill didn't come. He asked for the bill. And in French, he said 2 bills. And then so they came. And I was like, if someone says, I want to take you out, then I want to be taken out, which means to me to pay and whatever. So we did that. I paid and it's fine. And then after I was honest and I just said it, like, I don't know. Cause I said like, yeah, I thought you were going to take me out. And like, to me, that means pay. And then suddenly his English wasn't so good anymore. Or when he was like, I don't understand what you mean. I was honest and like, whatever, what else do I have to lose? I just want to be honest because there's a way that I want to be treated. And like, I might as well just tell someone, like, what else do I have to lose? I don't know. And then like afterwards, he was like, next time I'll pay. Like unprompted, he said that after we were having another conversation. I said, okay. And then he said, are you free this week? And I said, yeah. And then I texted him after and I'm like, I had a nice time, thanks. And then he read it and didn't respond. And it's like, okay, I don't know. Like, I'm just tired of... I'm happy I was honest. But like, I just like want a fucking gentleman.
The most liked comment really says it for me. If this triggers a cry, it might be time to take a break. And I couldn't agree more. But as we know, serial daters will never, ever take a proper break from dating. What I find very interesting about this discourse is that firstly, people were hella confused because Esther acknowledges that the date was good, which infers that he was a quote-unquote gentleman for the duration of the date. It wasn't a bad date. And secondly, after Estee confronted him, he apologized and said unprompted that he'd pay for the next date. So for me, there's a lot more miscommunication here than there is malice. Him not paying, in my opinion, doesn't equate to him therefore not being a gentleman. I think a false inference is being made and deduced from one thing when all the other evidence that we've been given about the date being good, about him unpromptedly apologizing for not paying and saying that he'd pay for the next date, infers gentlemanly behavior, infers good behavior more so. Probably the only thing that seems a bit off is him leaving her on red. Anyway, not enough evidence for me to infer that he wasn't a good date. And in our times, there are just as many women who would be offended or uncomfortable by a man paying for them without asking, as there are women who would be offended otherwise. And therefore, for me personally, I just always think it's best to establish before the date who's paying, so that it isn't hanging over the date and potentially ruining things. Whenever going out with a man, I'd tell him beforehand that I expected him to pay, because that's a standard that I expected. And if that was a problem for him, blessings and riches, kisses, take care. I really did need to see from the get-go a willingness to be selfless and considerate of another person, just because in my experience and also just evolutionarily speaking, men tend to be more selfish and self-interested than women, and that's a character trait that I personally don't find attractive, so I don't want to waste my time. For me, a man paying demonstrates a kind of initial selflessness and his valuing of the time that we're spending together on that date. And in my dating experience, it was actually very effective in discerning whether he was paying for me because because he thought that I therefore owed him something, and it was therefore telling into whether he was paying selfishly or selflessly. Whenever going out with a woman, however, I'd always tell her beforehand that I'm paying, because I find that whenever we'd decide to split the bill, somebody, me, would always eat more, and let's just say that was a sign that a plan needed to be established before. But anyway, 50-50 crying gate basically established that Estee, our serial dater, wanted a gentleman. So what is a gentleman? Well, Estee doesn't know, but she wants one.
I want a gentleman, but I don't even know what that means. Like, what the is a gentleman?
I also find it hilarious that her response to 50-50 guy and wanting a gentleman was to immediately post a thirst trap, like we know gentlewomen do. The thing is, essentially, the rule as old as time is that if you want to attract X, you need to attract X in a complimentary way. If you want a gentleman, you need to be a gentlewoman. And honestly, Estee, you are a vibrant, firecracker modern woman, so this is in no way an insult. You do not fit the definition of what definitionally is a gentlewoman. I don't fit the definition of a gentlewoman. Gentlewomen are modest, their demeanor is very refined, it's very elegant, it's very proper, and it's very gentle. Gentlewomen don't use dating apps, they most certainly do not post thirst traps, they don't smoke weed, and they most certainly don't chew with their mouth open.
But it's boring to make a point of it. It's unoriginal. Like, ambitious, caring. Like, I'm obviously caring. You're gonna find that out, okay? I don't need someone immediately. I need to slow down. I'm eating too fast.
And again, there is no problem with doing any of that, but we do attract what we put out. And if you put out casual on TikTok who's attracted to emotionally unavailable artists, you're gonna attract that. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments. Now, Estee's gentle response was priceless and so typical of somebody who is in denial about being rejected.
After that video, I've gotten like 200 plus guys asking me out in my DMs. So
I just love the
That's Queen Skinny Legend Versace boots the house down. Slay Queen.
Sticking the middle finger up to your viewers is a decision. It isn't a decision that a gentlewoman would make, but it is a decision. But what is as much of a decision is making videos about wanting a gentleman, whilst then confidently stating that you responded to one of the 200 plus guys who DM'd you because he was your type.
And I only responded to one because he was the only one who was my type.
And as we know, your type is emotionally unavailable artists, aka not gentlemen. Estee would also make a very gentlewomanly response video on YouTube.
You don't tell someone you're gonna take them out and then not take them out. Taking out does not mean walking you in the door, okay? So don't be stupid. Don't be f***ing stupid. I don't know, like, that's my answer for you. Don't f***ing ask people out. Pissed off. I'm getting pissed off now.
An argument that she made in the video was that men should pay not just because of the labor in terms of looking good and wearing makeup that women put into going on a date, but also because of the emotional labor that women do relative to men.
The woman's role in a relationship, I'm not talking about trad wife here. I'm talking about literally just the role that very often women end up filling in a relationship is a very big role. There's a lot of emotional labor that goes into like the daily life of a woman that a lot of the time men don't think about. And again, I'm speaking in generalizations here, okay? This is a complicated topic. The emotional labor that a woman performs is great. And it often goes unnoticed, unappreciated, whatever. And, you know, that's just one thing. The gender norms of it all aside, like being a woman and dating is not just a free meal. There's a lot that actually goes into it that I think some guys don't understand.
Now, This, for me, screams volumes. I totally get that woman's emotional labor is completely disregarded and undervalued by men, by society, by children, by God, by everyone. However, emotional labor refers to the routine tasks necessary for maintaining relationships. It is clearly very much a primary feature of long-term committed relationships. For someone who serially dates and typically only goes on first dates with people, to then be talking about that which is done to maintain, emphasis on the maintain, long-term, highly committed relationships is a take. It's something. It is truly something.
Here's my rant for the evening, okay? Some of you do not think critically.
There's something that I've really noticed, which is that so many of us have an idea of what we want, but then decide to look for that thing in the completely wrong place. And instead of seeing that the reason for not finding what we want is because we are looking in all the wrong places, we instead decide to blame the wrong place that we're looking in. It's like how incels or red pillars sit on Twitter or on Tinder and OnlyFans complaining about the degeneracy of modern women, rather than seeing that what they're looking for, which is apparently, according to them, a normie, traditional, and honorable woman, isn't going to be on those platforms. And so rather than leave and find these women in the difficult and exposed, vulnerable places of the physical world, what they do is blame and bitch to the woman on those platforms for not being the woman they want. So in this scenario, Estelle wants a gentleman, but she's looking for a gentleman on dating apps which cater to modern, largely disgruntled men, to casual hookups, and to serial daters. Chivalrous, courteous, and honorable men aren't, for the most part, on the apps. It's an entirely different demographic, and it most definitely takes more than one date to discern whether somebody is a true gentleman or not. Estelle also cares about looks more than she seems to realize or cares to admit, judging a man's worth on his hotness and his proximity to her type more than judging him on his character, which again is most definitely not screaming, "I want a gentleman." So as of writing, Estelle has stated that she's taking a break from dating until spring. Let's see how long that lasts. I do like her non-dating content, but there is a clear and understandable incentive to post-dating content. As we've established, the life of dating creators is a conflicting one. It is evident that dating has taken a toll on Estelle, especially with videos like this. And I think that's the clear downside of, firstly, dating apps, and B, prioritizing ideals over standards that you can't even properly define.
Like, what the f is a gentleman?
That self-admission just gets me every time. I do wish her well on figuring out what she wants and hopefully getting off the dating apps. Yes, most of you are not going to find your significant other on dating apps, especially if you're looking for something meaningful. But I would love to hear your thoughts on these serial dating TikTokers. I personally find them fascinating, especially as somebody who made dating content about dating apps and speed dating when I was dating, and could have very, very easily slid into this particular niche. What experiences have you had with serial daters? Or just as important, are you a serial dater? What is your perspective on splitting the bill 50-50 on a date? Do let me know if you like these kinds of videos. I spend a lot of my free time snooping around different influencer communities that I'd love to expose you to. So do subscribe for more. Thank you so very, very much for watching. And I'll see all of you very, very soon in the next one.